Here we go. Hey, my name is Laurie James. I am a writer. I'm starting this video very on the spur of the moment. Earlier today, I happened to get a message from a work colleague with a link to a podcast. And you know, I'm filming this on my phone, so I'm going to have to look up the name of the podcast and put it on here at some point. The link's below, however that works. Literally, this is my first YouTube video. Podcast with two people I used to work with at Harper's Bazaar back when Liz Tilberis came on as the editor. And I listened, and I was even like name checked, like, because that's how it came to me, because my name was mentioned. You know, there's a lot of people who are not the marquee people. They're not the creative director. You know, they're not the big deal stylists. You know, there are a lot of other people who make things work, you know, from the fashion assistants to the beauty assistants to copywriters, you know, people who are working in the art department, you know, production artists, the people in operations, you know, who are actually like, you know, making sure that the trains are running on time. I have been witness to some really cool cultural moments just from being one of the worker bees, you know, truly in the fashion business in my early career and in the beauty business now in my career. I'm, you know, just a kid who liked to write. I wrote a little bit when I was in high school for the local newspapers, and I applied to, luckily for me, Smith College, where I made connections with Condé Nast in New York. So my first job was at Vogue for 2 years. I was there for Grace Mirabella's last year and Anna Wintour's first year. So after I left Vogue, I actually was hired away to Harper's Bazaar when the editor was Anthony Mazzola and his wife Michelle. So let's see, I was at Vogue from 87 to 89. Then I went to Bazaar for, I believe it was until like 93. I'll have to look at my resume, honestly. Or, you know, hey, go to my LinkedIn. Okay, so went to Harper's Bazaar. I was there for the change from the Mazzola era to the Liz Tilberis era. And I was like, truly like right there. My office was across the hall from Fabien Baron in the art department. And we had a blast until we didn't. You know, it was a very pressure cooker kind of situation. Amazing work was done. Liz was incredible. I learned so much, and bear with me, I'm gonna stand up for a sec. I kept so much stuff, you guys. I have like the old Harper's Bazaar Christmas card with Kate Moss on it. I have, this is an invitation to an at-home at Liz Tilberis's house. I mean, I've got like memos, like I've got all my old articles, hang on. Like where, I mean, it's like I turn my paper into the teacher and she like, so I mean, I've got the literal receipts like on paper. I've got so much cool stuff. I've got amazing stories behind the stories. I want to share with people who are interested. I know like the 90s are a big thing now. You know, given the podcast, you know, that was just forwarded to me. So Cynthia and Dennis, again, I'm going to put a thing or a link or whatever you do to, you know, give you some love. But yeah, it's time for me to start telling my stories and telling my story. And, you know, I hope if this stuff is of interest that you will subscribe because, yeah, there's a whole lot more. My first video, is going to be about the September 1992 issue of Harper's Bazaar. So this was the first issue that Liz did as her statement. There had been a couple, in the transition period where she was the editor, but it wasn't, her vision like this. I was there for the whole thing. I was on staff at Bazaar when Liz came on. I was lucky enough to be able to keep my job. They didn't really clean it. They did clean house in some areas, but I was, low enough on the totem pole and useful enough that I was kept around. And it was an amazing time to be there. All right, turning this off, and we're gonna cut to the close-up. Bye. So let's get into it. This is the Harper's Bazaar September issue from September 1992. And this is a special presentation format that was created by the publisher. And you'll see like there's this letter at the beginning here. So this, it's kind of bound in here. And it's addressed to Leonard Lauder. Strangely enough, I left Bazaar to go to Clinique, which is a Lauder company. But here we are. So there's a letter from the then publisher Carl Portali talking about, the new era of sophistication. And yeah, the famous cover, the most, signature cover of that era for Liz, I think. And enter the era of elegance. And Sarah Moore wrote that copy line. Beautiful. And at the end of this, I will show you, there's an alt take for this photo that I actually took from the bulletin board in the art department. Once everything was said and done, we knew what it was going to be. Of course, the iconic Linda shot here. So carrying forward, I'm not going to go through all the ads, as we all know and love. I'm trying to just find the masthead quickly. Yeah, ironically, I went to Clinique after I left. Okay, here we go. Went to Clinique. Liz Tilberis, editor-in-chief. So yeah, Anna Cryer, who was Liz's assistant at British Vogue, came over with her. She and I kept in touch for, and then Shasha, was married to Fabien Baron. Sarah Jane Hoare was from British Vogue. Evan Metzner actually lives down the street from me now. See her out and about once in a while. Sarah Moore, as far as I know, is still at Vogue. Went to Vogue and is still there. Sorry, the heat, the warmth of this keeps changing from my phone. Sorry about that. All right, carrying on. So I'm gonna get to my first story here. Oh, and there's Liz. This is her opening letter as the new editor. My first story here about the jackets of the season. And it's just crazy. The amount of copy we used to write on these things. And little iconic Barney's ad right next door. Those are fun days when those things were a big deal. All right, hang on, sorry. All right, next. Anna Sui did an article about this emerging at the time designer. She was good friends with Paul Cavacco and obviously Stephen Meisel, and she was just starting to show some of her collections. So I can go into a little more detail on any of these stories if anybody is interested, so just let me know. This is what we called 1A back in the day, or it's the opener to the well, the editorial well. And God, I just can't even, I can't even imagine who read it. And I always hated writing it. And to be honest, I think this was a combination between me and Sarah, or it could have just been Sarah because this is an important issue. So, but yeah, it's just like no one, my God, with our attention spans these days, it's kind of hilarious that we ever thought people would read that. But you did, because there was no digital to distract you. So, all right. First story. Great story here. As the pages were coming together, we just had dummy copy FPO'd in, and I believe Fab had an A. Fabien Baron was the creative director, called Fab sometimes. So he had playing with different letters, and we kind of looked at it, and I mutually, I think I asked him, like, what letter would you want? Or he said, I would want a Q. Like, I mean, look at that gorgeous letter. So we had to write something that started with a Q. So actually, I know that that first line was amended by Sarah. I remember I started with like something like quality, which of course is not the right word. So quiet luxury, considered line, beautiful fabrics. Thank you, Sarah, for that. I think, quite a bit of the rest of it was me. There's like quotes from Calvin Klein and Isaac Mizrahi and fun. All right, so I mean, and a beautiful story. I mean, let's just look at the gorgeousness of this. And I think Tani Goodman was the sittings editor for this. Okay, and then next story. This is a menswear story. I believe this was Sarah who did this one. And I think Tani did this sitting as well. Great article by Sarah. All right, I love this one. Kate Moss was really just kind of blowing up in a big way. Like, she was the hot girl. And this is a great spread. I believe this is Patrick Demarchelier. And this is, you're writing tiny little bits of copy, but you can pack so much into it. And I just always had loved this one. And again, Fab wanted wild is the word. He wanted to play with the type. So I knew that, I had to address that. So remember a time when genders were bent, rules broken, inhibitions shed, and all the best girls were pretty wild. So here we go. And then she's in a Buffalo Girl outfit here. Kind of the 70s groupie look. I think these guys are from Anthrax. Just beautiful. And sorry for all the reflections. I'm figuring out how to do all this stuff, right? Danilo did the hair, makeup by Kevin O'Quinn. My God, just glory. Great, amazing image from, I believe, Patrick again from the cover shoot. And Tina Goodwin was the beauty editor at the time. She was from England. Honestly, don't remember who wrote this one. And we're getting into features here, so that's not my stuff. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, this one, beautiful. Obviously, Peter Lindbergh. This is just, another iconic shoot. Motorcycle Mania brought black leather as much into the fashion vernacular as the little black dress. Well, okay, Laurie James. But, I mean, just beautiful. Just stunning classic images. Okay, and then, sorry, I'm skipping things that are not me. This is really cool because not only did I write the copy, this is my actual handwriting. Cleaned up a little bit, a little smoothed out, but like I physically wrote that out and they put it into the layout. And so this was all like this fantasy of Shalom being this like cool girl who's just jet setting around and having this like amazing, I can grab my glasses here, this amazing lifestyle. So the best cure for my short temper is a long weekend in Monte Carlo. Great shopping, great weather, and always something to do, like the Grand Prix, which is going on as we made port. Grand Prix. You simply must come in by boat. The warm Mediterranean waters are a soothing welcome, and as you cruise into the harbor, you can see who else is docked at the same time. So this is, meant to be a bit of a story. My God, Shalom Harlow, could you be more gorgeous? So yeah, a few things I've learned about traveling. Arrive at the hotel dressed as if you've got somewhere divine to go. Linger in the lobby to see who's around. Bring back a memento, preferably something sparkly. And take your own robe. Hotel robes are so plain. And then here, I have the most incredible luck at the casino's roulette table. I can't stop winning. My system proves itself again. Distract the croupier and watch the chips stack up. Just beautiful. My God, look at that. Dining at the Hotel de Paris is a bit nerve-wracking with all those race cars roaring by, and they fence you in so you won't step onto the racetrack, as if I would, and get tire marks on my nice white outfit. And yeah, she wound up going to the royal palace. The princess kindly invited me to the palace. Thank God I had my new YSL with me. The courtyard gardens look spectacular since the renovation, and the princes are both so charming. Talk about a fairy tale ending. Okay, I think that's about it for the stuff I did. And then here's some special bonus material. This is the alt cover image that I was telling you about. You'd see like they were playing around where the cover lines were gonna go. So, you know, side by side, it's just really an eye change, slight difference in the mouth position. But pretty cool, right? At least, you know, in the moment I recognized like that would be something to hold on to rather than throw in the trash. And then there's a whole bunch of, like, they put out a bunch of ads, obviously with that cover, but there's also an alt cover with Christy. Sorry, not an alt cover, but an alt ad using that image. So, Fashion's New Testament. When was the last time a fashion magazine took your breath away? So, this is, you know, the ad campaign that went out to go with the launch. And yeah, so just have always kept all this stuff together. And yeah, if there's any of the stories in here, like the Anna Sui story, or I think that was really like the biggest feature that I did. I don't think there's anything else. You know, there's certainly more like interviews and stuff in some later issues. But yeah, I think that other than the jacket story, yeah. So there we go. Hey, first video down. Low tech, sorry if there's any glare, sorry for ums. I hope you enjoyed it, and hey, come back for more. I'm gonna keep going. Okay, so that was a look through the September 92 Harper's Bazaar. You know, it's just, it's fun remembering those times when we were all just so in it, and we knew we were doing something amazing, and just to feel that energy and to, you know, take Bazaar from this dusty old thing from grandma's underwear drawer to, you know, the leading, you know, thing in fashion. That was amazing to be a part of that. I mean, and like I said, I am just some kid from upstate New York who went to, you know, a good school with good connections. It got me a good foot in the door at a really great place to be. Initially at Vogue, which then led to the rest of this career. So kind of amazing. So here are my ideas for some upcoming things that you all might find really cool. If you see this and would like to tell me in the comments which one you're interested in, or of course if there's anything else in particular from that time you want to talk about, please let me know. But here are 4 ideas? Yes. Okay, number 1 is the book The Emperor's New Clothes by Karl Lagerfeld. I have a signed first edition from a trip that I went on in, let's see, December 92 to LA to do a story for Harper's Bazaar about trunk shows. And Karl was there to do a trunk show and an appearance for this book. And they did a fashion show at Neiman Marcus, and some supermodels were there. So, okay, I'll tease that one. All right, next topic. Anna Wintour's first issue. I was also at Vogue when Anna Wintour came in, and I was there when this issue was being put together. I honestly, I will have to look through it. I do not believe I have anything in here. I might have like a little teeny fashion story maybe, but you know, just to talk about that time. And then I definitely have have a few little things I did for Vogue. That was literally my first job. All right, then another potential topic. Like I said, back in the 90s, I was the copy director at Aveda. This was something I created when I was there called I think we called it the Magalog or the Catazine, which was basically some editorial and then product copy. In particular, what is cool in this one, let me get to the page, is this story that I wrote. There's a tribe in the Brazilian rainforest called the Yawanawa that grow a pigment that was turned into products for Aveda, including this lipstick. There's the tribe. I have all my pictures from when we were there. We did a shoot out in the jungle. So that's a really amazing story if anybody's interested in that one. And then I have kind of mixed feelings about bringing this one up, but I'm exercising some demons, I guess. At the same time, I'm kind of, showing this stuff off. But I worked on a book with Stephanie Seymour, and it was a bit challenging, not because of her. Truly on my side, I wound up getting carpal tunnel and kind of had a bit of a difficult time, getting through it. But what the cool thing is we did this, just working with her on the book, is there's a color section in the middle. And by the way, this is Stephanie's mother, who agreed to model. Daniela Pestova. There's a great story about this model. Anyway, all of the pictures were taken by Francois Nars. He was the photographer. And kind of an amazing story about this book and the shoot and Stephanie. And so gosh, I've been, like I said, just kind of this kid from nowhere who kind of got in the middle of some cool stuff, and was lucky enough to, keep some of the keepsakes and, keep the stories in mind. And I hope you enjoyed this story about September 92 with Liz Tilberis, and I hope you will tune in for whatever the next one is. Tell me which of those sound good, or if nobody votes but my mom, well, I'll do what my mom wants, but dealer's choice, and we'll see what I do next time. I'm going to try to do these on the reg at least once a week, and we'll take it from there. So thank you for tuning in. I mean, this truly is kind of nuts. I just this morning got this link to this podcast, and I was name checked, and I was like, you know what, I'm just freaking gonna do it. So here we are. Thanks for listening, and subscribe, and I'm at contextrix.com if you need to get in touch with me. Thanks, bye.